calendars and those timelines, I think, are there to keep us on track and to keep us going. And if it has to do with evolution, then that's a system of growth too as well.
We are all now in a time shift. This is the moment to wake up and hear the message of the Mayan people and sing the new song of enlightenment, so we, the children of the earth, can return to nature. It is time for the 1260 Old World civilization of materialistic greed and mechanized life process to end.
I can only hope my Mayan people can really get in touch and follow the sacred timekeeping. There is only a few elders that are doing that, and I honor them so much because we are doing now a labor of recuperation of all this ancient knowledge. As I'm telling you, this is a part of the evolution of consciousness. And you have to remember the Mayan people of now have been slaves, let's call it like that, for the last 500 years. So it's not only a social revolution, but also a spiritual revolution. And I see many of the old Mayans being reincarnated in the youngsters coming now with new energies. So I see a very special revolution of people getting more and more in touch with Mayan spirituality. In Guatemala, we are allowed to do ceremonies only if we have special permissions from the ministry. I think we as Mayans should be allowed to do our ceremonies without having to ask the government for permission. We are asking for permission to the Nahuales, the guardians of the portals in the sacred cities. Do you understand what I mean? So it's a total revolution of consciousness that we are working on with the Mayans of today. So it's a total awakening, but it is also being represented in the rest of humanity. Because if we start to evolve into all that we are learning to be as evolved human beings, what is happening now is that we need a different time frame to be able to access those states of consciousness.
They were synchronized with natural time that brings into your life respect, love, tolerance, and understanding of the evolution of time, but as consciousness, because time is of consciousness. That is the key. That is the beauty of the Mayan calendar. And they developed this system to awareness the importance to understand natural cycles.
The Maya understood a system of time reckoning that was based on cyclical time and how everything repeats itself and is codified into cycles upon cycles of time. The current way at that time that we were looking at time from the Gregorian perspective or from the clock perspective is that time is a line and that we're always dragging the past forward and we're always wondering what the future will bring. But the Maya had a concept of the Zavuya, which is to actually circulate time both from the past and the future into the ever-present now, which is actually where we all dwell. We, in a physical body, hold a time-space point which is always based in the now. So the Maya had a profound understanding of how to measure time in the now.
The beauty of the Maya calendar, especially for Western philosophy or Westerners, is that it provides a sacred dimension to experience. There's a certain quality or characteristic of life in the modern world in which we are disconnected from the sacred dimension. And it's the indigenous wisdom very nicely and beautifully exemplified in the Maya calendar that can provide a doorway for us to reconnect with the sacred in our own lives.
The sacred calendar is the vehicle that will allow us to think like the advanced culture that existed in the Western world before the arrival of the Europeans. By retrieving the Mayan count of days after centuries of oppression of its indigenous population, we may recover a piece of the puzzle of the Mayan knowledge. The sacred count of days provides the key to the unification of the widely varying perspective in today's world on what it means to be a human being, and gives us a tool for aligning our intuition with our individual and cosmic purposes.
The long count calendar is not a calendar system that is still followed among the Maya. The 260-day calendar is, and that's really the core building block. But this long count calendar that gives us the 2012 end date, it seems to have been put in place about 2,100 years ago by this early Maya culture called the Izapan civilization. At the site of Izapa, we have carved monuments, and we have orientations that bring in this rare galactic alignment that culminates in 2012. The alignment of the December solstice sun with the dark rift in the Milky Way, right at the crossroads where the Milky Way crosses the ecliptic. This rare alignment takes place only once every 26,000 years. And what I found in looking at the carved monuments of Izapa is that we have encoded here at the site the perennial wisdom associated with this astronomical alignment. It's not just about astronomy. There's a prophecy, and there's spiritual teachings. And I think of Izapa as being sort of like ground zero of the 2012 prophecy, and a clarity of bringing back to consciousness this original teaching about 2012. I think it's very important to go right to the source of the revelation.
Today, modern science is considered the norm, and scientists judge the level of advancement of Mesoamerican cultures by modern standards. If we are to recognize the true value of the ancient scientific knowledge, we must evaluate the quality of modern knowledge using the ancient knowledge as a standard.
My ancestors were masters in the time journeying, so they knew exactly even what is happening now. You have to think about this civilization as one of very advanced human beings with great consciousness. I can tell you that the sacred calendar is not something that you can see in the different fictions of dates we have. You cannot see that there is a beginning, a prototype of how it started from the oldest date. Is always keeping the way of the date. That can only prove to us that the Mayan calendar is not even Mayan. If you see the codex that is called the Dresden Codex, because it's in the Museum of Dresden, but actually was found in the area of Petén in Guatemala, there are depictions of multitude of different persons from the stars, star people. Yeah? So you can see this civilization was friends with this higher consciousness. That's why we haven't been able to read all the messages they left for us, because we still don't have the level of consciousness that will allow us to understand the concepts. We have grown a lot in the technology and the science to understand many things, but the level of consciousness that will understand the messages of the time travelers. This is a different consciousness. Now humanity is reaching a level where we are starting to be interested, because the sacred calendar is a map of time.
Only from such a point of view of departure will we realize that humanity has lost access to an indispensable part of its ancient heritage, a heritage that has either been distorted or not understood correctly. And this very lack of insight about the ancient knowledge through their sacred calendar has created a global imbalance. We have consciously shunned half the world's knowledge.
Well, Izapa is a very special place because it is the place where the 2012 calendar was invented. And the spiritual message that's preserved on the carved monuments of Izapa are basically the same message that we find in the hero twin creation myth. So basically the carved monuments are portraying that same teaching that we find in the Popol Vuh. And in that story, it's basically, in a nutshell, it's basically the relationship between Seven Macaw, who is the false ruler, and One Hunahpu, who is the consciousness that's been reborn, transformed by coming back into right relationship with the true cosmic source and center. So this dynamic between Seven Macaw and One Hunahpu, and how the hero twins facilitate the demise of Seven Macaw and the rebirth of their father, One Hunahpu, it's basically the perennial universal teaching about the relationship between the limited ego consciousness and the divine, unlimited, true consciousness. And the spiritual message is that we have an opportunity here at the end of the cycle to sacrifice or surrender the illusions that keep us fixated to that limited state of consciousness that is ruled by the seven macaws of the world. Seven macaw being the vain and false ego, you know, the ego out of control. And, you know, ego's always been a fiction of convenience, but at some point in the great cycles of time, humanity lost their connection with the true eternal consciousness, which is our birthright. It resides at the core of our hearts. And when that connection got severed, then ego sort of got deputized to take over that function. And then things kind of just went haywire from there.
But if we really want to know more and how the Mayan count of days functions, we must ask the Mayan elders. Among the living Maya themselves, many are educating their young in the old ways. At the core of the teachings is the sacred count of days.
If you are born into the energy of Kech, you are a person of service. If you are Balam, the Jaguar, you have authority. Depending on what sign you were born in, you can educate a child to take out their potential and their possibilities and to develop their talents also.
The main path provided by the Mayan count of days is thus toward oneness, unity, compassion, and love. And this is charted at the level of consciousness. The Mayan count of days functions as a metaphysical map of the evolution of consciousness and records how spiritual time flows, providing a new science of divine time. By using the Mayan count of days correctly, as a spiritual device, we will have a greater understanding of the nature of conscious evolution throughout human history, how it provides the concrete steps we can take to align ourselves with this growth toward enlightenment.
I believe that the Maya left us clues that they really were galactic travelers to this planet, that anyone who has visited the sacred sites of the Maya soon realizes that, wow, something was going on here that we don't understand because of the profound harmony in the placement of the temples. Chichen Itza, the ability to capture the equinoxes with that beautiful serpent going down the pyramid. Those are all signs that there is something going on that we don't understand.
The year 2012 in particular will be required for an enlightened state to settle in a number of individuals who may not have been fully prepared for it. The ancient traditions throughout the planet all point in the same direction, a timeless period, enlightened state of cosmic consciousness. We may start asking ourselves if we really need a calendar that divides people and time, or if we need one that helps us to attain a state of enlightenment. It is time that we use a calendar that helps us to align ourselves to the divine.
The prophecy for 2012 again has to do with what's going to be happening at the end of the age. And it has to do with this deity Seven Macaw. He's the vain and false ruler. He is dead set to deceive humanity, to try to keep humanity from feeling their connection with their true eternal selves. So at the end of the cycle, Seven Macaw, or vain egoism, will be ruling and ruining